My mom's 60th birthday speech started with, "I have 2 sons, a surgeon, a lawyer, and one who still delivers pizza at 35. The room erupted. My brother added, "Remember when he said he'd be a businessman?" More laughter. My sister-in-law, "At least he finally stopped asking to crash on our couch." My own father, "Some kids just never grow up." Even my 16-year-old nephew, Smirked, "Uncle still living in grandma's basement?" So I've been debating whether to post this for days, but honestly, I need to vent somewhere. My mom's big 60th birthday was 2 weeks ago at this fancy restaurant downtown. I actually was looking forward to it, you know? Bought her this vintage record player she'd been eyeing forever, even paid extra for rush shipping to make sure it arrived in time. I showed up early to help set everything up, arranged the gift table, helped the staff with some tech issues with their sound system. They were struggling with Bluetooth connections. Typical. My brother Mike flew in from out of state with his wife and kids. My other brother Chris drove up from his place with his family. Even my Aunt Stella, who never comes to anything, was there. The dinner started off fine. Food was good, everyone catching up, whatever. Then it came time for speeches, and that's when it all went to Dad stood up first, glass raised. He talked about their marriage, how proud he was of the family they built together. Then he said something like, "We raised 3 boys together." Well, 2.5 maybe. Cue the chuckles around the table. I just forced a smile and took another drink. Then Mom gets up for her speech. She's getting emotional, looking around the room at everyone. "I'm so blessed. I have 2 wonderful sons, a successful surgeon saving lives, a brilliant lawyer who just made partner, and one who still delivers pizza at 35. The room erupted with laughter. Like seriously, people were howling. I just sat there gripping my water glass so hard my knuckles went white. But they weren't done. Not even close. Mike jumped in next. "Remember when he said he'd be a businessman? That he'd have his own company someday?" More laughter. His wife, Danielle, added, "At least he finally stopped asking to crash on our couch." For the record, I stayed with them for 2 weeks 5 years ago when my apartment had water damage. 2 weeks, and I brought them dinner every night as thanks. Dad chimed in again. "Some kids just never grow up, but we love them. Anyway," with that stupid patronizing smile. Even my 16-year-old nephew looked at me and said, "Uncle Jack's still living in grandma's basement. I haven't lived with my parents since college. I have my own place downtown." Then Aunt Stella had to add, "Maybe next year he'll get a real job." I just sat down my glass and walked out. Nobody even noticed. Paid for the record player with the card I left at the bar, and left. My phone stayed silent for hours. Mom finally texted around midnight asking where I went. I didn't bother responding. Here's the thing nobody in my family has ever bothered to understand. I do deliver pizzas 3 nights a week, but not because I have to. 6 years ago, I started building this payment processing platform for small businesses. It's nothing flashy, just helps with cash flow management and stuff. I bootstrapped the whole thing myself. I keep delivering pizzas because 1, it gets me out of the house talking to actual humans, and 2, it's honestly great market research for how small businesses actually operate. But my family has never asked about my life. They just see pizza delivery guy = loser. End of story. What they also don't know, I've been quietly helping all of them financially for years. When Mike's practice was struggling to launch, I anonymously paid off $1.50K of his medical school debt. When Chris needed help with the down payment for his house, I transferred $1.30K to his account as a gift from a client who wants to remain anonymous. When my parents' roof collapsed and insurance wouldn't cover it, I paid the $122K repair bill through a special insurance appeal. That magically worked out. I've been setting up automatic payments on their mortgages, car loans, and credit cards for years. I'm not super rich, but my business does well enough that I can help out. I did it anonymously because I didn't want them to feel like they owed me anything. I just wanted to help because they're family. But after that, birthday dinner, or that. 2 days later, I logged into my accounting system and canceled everything. All the automatic payments, all the scheduled transfers, everything. Called my bank and stopped any recurring payments to accounts connected to my family. Nothing illegal, nothing hacked, just stopped helping, stopped covering for them, stopped being their secret financial safety net. It took about 2 weeks for the extra in touch to hit the fan. My phone started blowing up with panicked texts. "Mom, at 6:03 a.m., my card got declined. For coffee. WTF? She never has money on her card because Dad handles the finances, and I've been supplementing their account." Chris at 7:15. "Why is my mortgage showing unpaid? The house is in foreclosure." "Because you've been late on payments for months and I've been covering the difference." Dad at 8:47 a.m. "The truck is being repossessed." "What's happening? You haven't actually made a full payment in over a year." Danielle at 10:22 a.m. "They froze our accounts, the kids' tuition, because you guys are overextended and I've been quietly transferring money every month." Mom again, voicemail at 11:38 a.m. "Please pick up the house. They say it's not ours." Where are you? It's still yours. You're just behind on payments now that I'm not covering it. I haven't responded to a single message. They've called, texted, emailed, even reached out through mutual friends. Chris showed up at my apartment yesterday, pounding on the door, yelling about how his kids might have to change schools. I turned up my music and ignored him until he left. Look, I know some of you are probably wondering why my family treats me this way in the first place. Growing up, I was always the weird one. Mike and Chris were good at sports in school. I was the kid taking apart computers and teaching myself to code at 13. My parents never got it. When I dropped out of college to work on my first startup, which failed pretty spectacularly, it confirmed every low expectation they had. That failure has defined how they see me, no matter what I've done since. They decided I was the family disappointment and never bothered to update that opinion. Part of me feels kind of bad about the whole situation. These are legitimate financial problems hitting people I care about. But a bigger part of me is just done. For the first time in my life, they actually need me. They just don't know it yet. I'm still delivering pizzas, still running my business, still living my life, but now I'm wondering what happens next. Do I tell them it was me all along? Do I wait for them to figure it out? Do I just ghost them forever? All I know is I'm done being the family punching bag. Update 1. Holy... You guys. First, thanks for all the comments and support on my last post. Didn't expect that to blow up like it did. A lot's happened in the last few days, and I'm typing this from the back room at work between deliveries, so sorry if it's messy. So, my parents did show up at my apartment the day after my last post. I was actually working on some code for a new feature on my platform when the buzzer went off. Checked the building camera on my phone and saw both of them standing there. Dad was pacing back and forth while Mom kept pressing the buzzer over and over. I muted it and went back to coding. After about 20 minutes, my phone started blowing up with texts. Dad, we know you're home. Your car is here. Mom, please, Jack, we need to talk to you. It's an emergency. Dad, this is serious. Answer the door. Now. I turned my phone on silent and kept working. Another 30 minutes passed before they finally left. As soon as their car pulled away, I grabbed my keys and headed out for my pizza delivery shift. Figured my apartment wasn't safe for a while. When I got to work, my manager, Rico, pulled me aside. Said my brother Chris had called the pizza place 4 times, asking when I'd be in for my shift. Rico was confused why my brother needed to know my schedule so badly. I just shrugged and said, family drama. Nothing serious. Sure enough, about an hour into my shift, Chris shows up. Not alone either. He brought Dad with him. They walked in while I was folding boxes, and Chris immediately started in asking what the hell was going on with me and why I wasn't answering my phone. I just looked confused and asked what he was talking about. Dad jumped in saying there was something wrong with all their accounts, bills weren't being paid, and somehow everything was falling apart at once. He asked if I knew anything about it. I literally laughed. Said something like, "What would I know about your finances? I'm just the loser who delivers pizzas, remember?" Chris got all red in the face and said this wasn't a joke, that his house was in foreclosure and the kids might have to change schools. Dad added that Mom was having panic attacks and couldn't sleep. I just shrugged and told them I had deliveries to make and maybe they should talk to their banks or financial advisors instead of harassing me at work. Chris grabbed my arm as I tried to walk past and I yanked it away hard, told him not to touch me again. Rico came over then and asked if everything was okay. I said these customers were just leaving and Chris looked like he wanted to punch me. Dad practically had to drag him out of there. When I got home after my shift, I had 37 missed calls and a full voicemail box. Mom, Dad, Chris, Mike, Danielle, even Aunt Stella. It was like the whole family was in crisis mode. The texts were even better. Mike, whatever you're doing, stop it. Danielle is crying because we might lose the kids' college fund. Mom, the bank says we haven't made a mortgage payment in 3 months. That's impossible. We've never missed a payment. Chris, my credit score dropped 150 points overnight. This has to be some kind of mistake. Dad, son, we're really worried about you. If you're having some kind of breakdown, we can get you help. That last one actually made me laugh out loud. They think I'm having a breakdown. I crashed at my buddy Raj's place next night. Raj is my business partner. He handles the marketing side of our platform while I do the tech. He's the only person who knows the full story about my family and my business. When I told him what was happening, he just shook his head. You know, they're going to figure it out eventually, he said while handing me a beer. Maybe, I replied. But they've spent 20 years not asking a single question about what I actually do. Why start now? The next morning, Raj showed me something interesting. He'd been checking our company email and found a message from Danielle, Mike's wife. She'd found our company website somehow and sent a general inquiry about financial consulting services. No mention of me, just asking for information. Raj didn't respond, but it was the first sign that someone in the family was starting to connect dots. Later that day, I got a text from Mom asking me to come to their house for dinner on Sunday. Said the whole family would be there and they Needed to discuss some things. No mention of finances, just a family dinner. I didn't respond. Out of curiosity, I drove by their house Sunday evening around dinner time. Sure enough, all the cars were there. Mike's SUV, Chris's sedan, even Aunt Stella's old Buick, having a family meeting without me. About me, probably. I parked down the street and opened my laptop. Since I built the platform that handles all their financial stuff, I could see exactly what was happening with their accounts in real time. Chris had taken out a high-interest emergency loan that morning. Mike and Danielle had withdrawn money from their kids' college fund. Mom and Dad had called their bank 17 times in the past week. They were scrambling, and I was watching it all happen from my car. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was my nephew, the same one who made that basement joke at the birthday party. He'd gotten a new phone, apparently. "Hey, Uncle Jack. I know everyone's looking for you. They're all freaking out about money stuff. Dad says you're having mental problems, but I don't think that's it. What's really going on?" I stared at that text for a long time. The kid's 16. Not his fault. The rest of the family are. But I wasn't ready to let anyone off the hook yet. So I just replied with the "nothing's going on, just busy with work." As I was about to drive away, the front door of my parents' house flew open and Chris stormed out, slamming the door behind him. He got in his car and peeled out of the driveway, nearly hitting the mailbox. Family dinner not going well, I guess. I drove back to my apartment, finally feeling safe to return since everyone was at my parents' place. As I was unlocking my door, my neighbor poked her head out and told me some people had been by looking for me earlier, said they seemed upset and were pounding on my door for a good 10 minutes. I thanked her and went inside, double-checking that my door was locked behind me. Then I did something I probably should have done 2 weeks ago. I checked my email. There were dozens of messages from family members, each more desperate than the last, but one caught my eye from Danielle sent just an hour ago. "I found your company website. I know what you've been doing. We need to talk. Just you and me, no one else knows yet." Well, someone finally did some basic Googling. I closed my laptop without responding and poured myself a drink. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. I had just finished my morning coffee, Next day, when my buzzer rang, checked the camera. It was Danielle alone. I buzzed her up, curious what she had to say. When I opened the door, she looked terrible, like she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were red, and she was clutching her phone like a lifeline. "Your company processes payments for small businesses," she said immediately. "You're the CEO. You've been helping us financially, haven't you? And now you've stopped." I just stared at her, not confirming or denying anything. "Why?" she asked. "Because of what happened at the birthday. We were just joking around, Jack. That's when I lost it." "Joking? You've been treating me like the family failure for years. None of you ever bothered to ask what I actually do. None of you ever showed any interest in my life. You just decided I was a loser, and that was that." Danielle started crying, saying she didn't know, that no one knew. I told her to leave and tell the others that if they wanted answers, they could come to the pizza place tonight at 8 or $1 p.m., all of them. After she left, I texted Rico to warn him that my family might show up during my shift again. He replied with family drama, $. Good tips. Bring it on. Then I texted Raj. They're figuring it out, meeting them tonight at work, might need backup. His response was immediate. I'll be there with bells on this. I got to see. I'm at the pizza place now, waiting. It's 7:45 p.m. My family still has no idea what's really going on or why their financial lives are falling apart, but they're about to find out. And honestly, part of me is actually looking forward to it. Update 2. The showdown at the pizza place happened, and it was even more insane than I expected. Sorry for the delay in updating. Needed a few days to process everything. So, I was folding boxes at the front counter when they all walked in at exactly 8:03 p.m. Mom, Dad, Chris, Mike, and Danielle, all looking stressed AF. Even from across the room, I could see Mom had been crying. Raj was already there, sitting at a corner table, pretending to be a regular customer just like we planned. Rico, my manager, glanced at me with this. Is that them? Look, I nodded, and he immediately got busy with the ovens to give us space. Cool, dude. The dinner rush was mostly over, so there were only a couple of other customers. My family stood awkwardly by the door until I pointed to the empty tables. They shuffled over and sat down, looking around at the cheap plastic chairs and faded menu boards like they'd never been in a pizza place before. I finished folding the box I was working on, took my time washing my hands, then walked over. Nobody said anything for like 10 full seconds, just staring at me in my pizza uniform with the stupid hat. Dad broke the silence first, asked if we could talk somewhere private. I said, nope, we talk right here, or not at all. Chris immediately started in about how they'd been trying to reach me for weeks and demanded to know if I was behind their financial problems. Classic Chris, always on the attack. I just stared at him and asked why he would think that. What could I, a pizza delivery guy, possibly do to mess with their finances? Mike, trying to be the reasonable one, said Danielle told them she found my company online. Asked if it was true that I run a financial services platform. I nodded. The look on their faces was almost worth all the years of their in. Mom gasped. Dad's mouth literally hung open. Chris turned this weird shade of red. Then Mom started crying again, asking why I never told them about my business, why I kept it a secret all these years. That's when I lost it. I told them I tried to tell them about my business 6 years ago when I started it. Reminded them about the family dinner where I excitedly explained my concept and business plan, and they all laughed it off. Dad called it another one of Jack's crazy schemes. Chris said I should get a real job instead of playing on the computer. Mom just looked worried and asked if I was sure this was a good idea given my track record. After that, I just stopped sharing anything about my life with them. What was the point? They'd already decided who I was, the family failure, the guy who couldn't get his together. The cautionary tale they could point to when teaching their kids about making good life choices. Chris tried to interrupt, but I was on a roll, asked him if he remembered where the down payment for his lake house came from. Watched his face as it clicked, asked Mike if he ever wondered how his medical school debt got paid down right when his practice was struggling. Asked my parents if they really believed their insurance company suddenly reversed their decision on the roof claim last year. The silence was deafening. Then Dad, looking genuinely confused, asked why I would help them secretly all these years only to suddenly stop. Are you, kidding me? I reminded them about Mom's birthday party, repeated every single joke they made at my expense. The surgeon, the lawyer, and the pizza guy. The basement joke, maybe next year he'll get a real job comment. All of it. Mike tried to defend them, saying they were just joking around. That's how our family has always been. I asked if they ever noticed that the jokes only ever go one way. They mock my job, my life choices, my ambitions, but I'm never allowed to joke about them. If I even hint that Chris might not be as brilliant a lawyer as he thinks, or that Mike's huge house might be a bit much, they get defensive immediately. Danielle, who'd been quiet until now, asked exactly what I do with my business. I gave them the brief version: payment processing and cash flow management for small businesses, similar to Square or PayPal, but focused on specific industries. Chris scoffed and said, "That doesn't sound very impressive." Asked how much I actually make. I didn't answer directly, just said enough that I've been covering your mortgage payments for the last 8 months without you noticing. His face went pale. Mom started with the guilt trip, then. Said she was hurt that I'd kept secrets from them, that families should be honest with each other, asked how I could just cut them off without warning when I knew they needed help. That's when Raj decided to join the conversation. He came over, introduced himself as my business partner, and told them he'd heard a lot about them. Said it was interesting to finally meet the family that Jack has been supporting financially for years while they mock him to his face. Dad got defensive, saying they had no idea I was helping them, that I should have told them. Raj asked why they never bothered to ask what I actually do for a living. One simple question over all these years would have cleared everything up, but they were too busy making pizza delivery jokes. Chris stood up suddenly, knocking his chair over, said this was brainy or smite. That I was being manipulative and childish, that if I had a problem with how they treated me, I should have said something instead of playing these games, with their livelihoods. I laughed in his face, told him I did say something. Every time I asked them to stop with the jokes, every time I tried to talk about my business only to be dismissed, every time I defended my choices and was ignored. Rico came over then asking if everything was okay. Chris was getting pretty loud. I said everything was fine, but maybe my family should leave. Mom refused to go, said we needed to fix this, that they were in serious financial trouble. Asked what I wanted from them. What did I want? That stumped me for a second. I hadn't really thought that far ahead. Part of me just wanted to watch them squirm. I told them I wanted an actual apology. Not sorry you feel that way or sorry, but we were just joking. A real acknowledgement of how they've treated me for years. Chris scoffed again, saying I was holding their finances hostage for an apology. Real mature. Mike surprised me by telling Chris to shut up. He looked at me and said he was sorry for the birthday comments and for not taking an interest in my life. It seemed genuine, but honestly, too little too late. My phone buzzed. Text from my nephew. Are you with my parents? They're all freaking out, I replied. Yep. Family meeting at my workplace. He shot back. Can I come? I have questions for you. I told him where we were. Chris saw me texting and demanded to know who I was talking to. I ignored him. Dad finally asked the question they really came for. Would I start helping them again? Their bills were piling up. Accounts were frozen. Credit scores tanking. I told them I'd think about it. But things would never go back to how they were before. No more anonymous help. No more pretending to be something I'm not. Mom started crying again, saying they might lose their house. Dad looked genuinely scared. For the first time in my life, I saw him look at me with something other than disappointment. That's when my nephew walked in. He'd taken an Uber. Chris immediately told him to go back home. This was adult business. The kid ignored him and came straight to me. He asked how long I'd been running my company. I told him 6 years. He asked if I was really just delivering pizzas for fun. I nodded. He asked if he could come see my office sometime. I said, sure. Chris lost it, then started yelling that I was turning his son against him. I stepped between them, telling Chris to back off. He shoved me hard. Big mistake. Rico and 2 of the kitchen guys immediately came over. Rico told Chris he needed to leave right now or he'd call the cops. Chris tried to argue, but Dad grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the door. As they were leaving, Dad turned back and asked if we could meet again tomorrow, somewhere more private. Said they all needed time to process everything. I told him I'd text him an address for tomorrow morning. Not my apartment, not their house, somewhere neutral. After they left, Raj came over and patted me on the back, asked if I was okay. I wasn't sure how to answer that. My phone buzzed again. Text from my nephew. Sorry about... Dad, can I still come see where you work sometime? I replied, sure. How about tomorrow? I'm meeting everyone at my office at 10:01 a.m. His response, awesome. They don't know it's your actual office, do they? Smart kid. I'm heading to the office early tomorrow to prepare. Got all the financial records printed out. Every payment I've made for them over the years, plus screenshots of my bank accounts to show exactly what I'm worth now. Tomorrow, they'll see who the real businessman in the family is. And they'll learn exactly what it's going to take if they want my help again. I'm not backing down. Not anymore. Final update. Okay, so the meeting at my office happened yesterday, and OMFG, it was intense. Still processing everything, but figured I owed you guys the final update since you've all been so supportive. I got to the office around 8:01 a.m. to prep everything. We're in this converted warehouse space downtown. Nothing super fancy, but definitely not what you'd expect from a pizza delivery guy. Open. Floor plan, about 20 employees, glass-walled conference room, the usual startup vibe. I had our office manager pull together folders with printouts of every financial transaction I've made for my family over the last 6 years. Every mortgage payment, every loan payoff, every mysterious bank deposit. Added up, it came to just over $320,000. Yeah, that much. At 9:55, my nephew texted that they were outside. I went to the lobby to meet them personally. Mom, Dad, Chris, Mike, Danielle, and my nephew, all standing awkwardly by the reception desk, looking confused AF. The receptionist, Allie, was giving them visitor badges and trying not to laugh because she knows the whole story. The look on their faces when I walked up in actual business clothes instead of a pizza uniform was priceless. Mom actually gasped. Chris's jaw literally dropped. My nephew was grinning like he was watching his favorite show. I led them to the conference room without saying much. Had coffee and stuff set up already. Once everyone sat down, it got super quiet. Nobody seemed to know where to start. My dad finally broke the silence, asking if this was really my company. I nodded and pointed to the wall where there's a framed article from a tech blog that did a feature on us last year. My picture is right there with the headline, How This Bootstrapped Startup is Challenging the Payment Processing Giants. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up our company financials on the screen. Annual revenue, growth projections, client list, everything. Chris actually choked on his coffee when he saw the numbers. I explained exactly what we do. We handle payment processing and cash flow management for small businesses, focusing on restaurants, retail shops, and service providers. We're not huge, but we're profitable and growing steadily. Dad asked how long this had been going on. I reminded him that I tried to tell them about the business 6 years ago when I was first starting it. Even showed them a screenshot of a family group text from back then where I invited them all to my first office, a tiny one-room rental for a launch party. Only Mom came and she left after 20 minutes because she had a hair appointment. Mike at least had the decency to look embarrassed. Chris, though, he was already calculating angles, asked how much the company was worth now, if I'd taken any investors, if I was planning to sell. Typical Chris, always looking for an opportunity. I ignored his questions and handed out the folders. Told them to take a few minutes to look through everything. The silence as they flipped through those pages was deafening. Pages and pages of proof that I'd been secretly keeping their financial lives afloat for years while they mocked me to my face. Mom started crying again. Dad just kept shaking his head like he couldn't process what he was seeing. Danielle was the first to actually say something. She asked why I never told them I was helping. I explained that at first I just wanted to help without making them feel indebted to me. But as time went on and they continued to treat me like the family, disappointment, it became a weird experiment. How long would they keep mocking me while unknowingly depending on me financially? Turns out, years. Chris predictably got defensive. Started saying I was being manipulative. That normal people don't secretly pay their family's bills and then hold it over their heads when they get their feelings hurt. That's when my nephew spoke up, which surprised everyone. He asked Chris if he'd ever Googled my name or my company, if he'd ever shown any interest in what I actually do for a living. Chris didn't have an answer. Mike tried to play peacemaker, saying, "What's done is done, and now we need to figure out how to move forward." Asked if I was planning to help them get back on their feet. I told him I had a proposal, pushed over a stack of documents I'd prepared with Raj's help. Basically, I offered to help them stabilize their finances again, but with clear terms this time. No more anonymous help. Everything would be documented as formal. Loans with proper repayment schedules. Each of them would need to meet with a financial advisor that I'd pay for to figure out why they were so overextended despite their supposedly successful careers. They would acknowledge my business success publicly, including to the extended family who were at that birthday party. And most importantly, the jokes and put-downs stop completely. First time any of them makes another comment about pizza delivery or living in basement, all financial help ends. Permanently. Chris immediately started arguing about the terms, saying I was being petty and controlling. I just shrugged and said he was free to decline. The bank would be happy to handle his foreclosure. Dad asked for time to think about it. I said they had until the end of the week. Then I was heading out of town for a business trip. Not actually true, but I wanted to create a deadline. Mike and Danielle accepted on the spot, thanked me for the offer, and apologized again for how they'd treated me. Seemed genuine, but who knows? Mom was still crying, but managed to ask why I kept delivering pizzas if I had this successful company. I explained that I genuinely enjoy it, gets me out of the office talking to regular people, and it's actually great research for our products since we work with so many restaurants. My nephew asked if we had any internship positions for high school students, said he's been teaching himself coding. That was honestly the best moment of the whole meeting. I told him to come by next week, and I'd introduce him to our dev team. As they were getting ready to leave, Chris finally dropped the attitude a bit, asked if I really would have let them lose their houses and ruin their credit. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "You all laughed when Mom said she had 2 successful sons and one who delivers pizzas. Nobody noticed when I walked out, so yeah, I would have." The room got very quiet. Dad was the last to leave. He lingered by the door, looking around at the office, at the employees, working outside the conference room. Asked if I was happy. Not successful? Happy. I told him I was not because of the money or the company, but because I finally built something on my own terms without trying to live up to anyone else's expectations. He nodded, looking older than I've ever seen him. Said he was proud of me. First time I can remember him ever saying those words. I just said thanks. Didn't hug him or get emotional. Just thanks. That was yesterday. This morning, I got separate. Texts from all of them, even agreeing to my terms. Dad asked if I'd come over for dinner next week. Haven't responded to that one yet. Raj thinks I should make peace with them now that I've made my point. Maybe he's right, but honestly, I'm not sure I want to go back to regular family dinners and holidays like nothing happened. The relationship is fundamentally changed now. What I do know is that I'm done hiding who I am and what I've built. Done being the family joke. Done silently helping people who don't respect me. And if that means some relationships stay permanently damaged, I think I'm okay with that. Thanks for all the advice and support, Reddit.